Hello. Today we will be going over absolute value. My friend needed help on this, so I'm making this video for her. So let's start. So we can start with something basic. We have this number line. What absolute value measures is how far you are from 0. So let's just choose a random point. We can say this equals 3. And in case if you figured it out, the absolute value would be 3. So the value of 3 equals 3. But so let's say we have a negative number now. And let's say this is negative 4. The distance now is 4 because we're 4 away from 0. And so the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Let's do another example. This text is too thick. Okay. Let's try 0. We're at 0. We're 0 away from 0. So the absolute value of 0 is 0. Now if you've noticed, all of these numbers have been positive. So what we can say, and that's the whole basis of absolute value. No matter what number you put in here, it will always be positive unless it's 0, in which case it's 0. So we can write it out like this. Let's get all of this away. Now, we can write it like this. If x is greater than 0, absolute value of x equals x. Okay? So that's just saying if the number is positive, it stays the same. If x is less than 0, the absolute value will be negative x. Why is that? Because negative number is negative 1 times something. And when you multiply negative 1 times negative 1, that equals 1. So what we did here, we just take the negative number, multiply it by negative 1, and now it's a positive number. And finally, the last case. If x is 0, absolute value equals 0. Actually, instead of x, we can just say absolute value of 0 equals 0. So absolute value is a way you can guarantee that your number will always be positive. So let's try to solve some problems with this. Now this is the harder part. And because of how absolute value works, you will actually get a couple of solutions, and that's what this whole thing's about. So let's take one. Okay. Absolute value of x equals 3. Okay? So let's draw a number line again. We need to find 2 points that are 3 units away from 0. So there's 3, but then there's also negative 3, because negative 3 minus 0 minus negative 3 is 3. That's why the distance formula always uses absolute values, because absolute value guarantees that it will be positive. So the answer for this is x equals 3, x equals negative 3. Okay, let's do another problem. Now let's say we have an equation. Let's do absolute value of 2x plus 3 is equal to 4. And what this means is that either 2x plus 3 equals 4, or 2x plus 3 equals negative 4. So let's solve for both. The first one, 2x equals 1, x equals 1/2, or 2x equals negative 7, x equals negative 7 over 2. So that part should be easier. Okay. Now let's do something a little bit harder. We will do inequalities. So just a quick recap. You have 2x greater or equal to 4. In order for this statement to be true, x needs to be greater or equal to 2. And one rule that we will be using today, if you have to multiply by a negative number, actually let's make that negative 4. Then you have to, when you multiply by a negative number, you also have to flip the sign. That means x has to be less than or equal to 2. And this makes sense, because if you want negative 2x to be greater than negative 4, if you make x bigger, it actually makes this whole number smaller. So we have to flip the sign in order to make it correct. Let's do a problem with absolute values. Absolute value of x plus 3 is greater or equal to 7. Okay? So what this means is it could be either one of two things. Actually, what we can do first is we can just replace this part with u. So we'll just do absolute value of u is greater or equal to 7. And what I'm going to show you is that u is either greater or equal to 7, or u is less than or equal to negative 7. Because depending on what u is, there are two ways it can be greater than 7. Let's bring back our number line. Now let's say this is where 7 is. This is where negative 7 is. So, and then let's just name 2 more points. This is 9. This is negative 10. So let's take the absolute value of 7. That equals 7. And absolute value of 9 equals 9, which is greater than 7. But we'll also see that negative 7, the absolute value of negative 7 equals 7, but the absolute value of negative 10 is 10, which is greater than or equal to is greater or equal to 7. So you need to account for both sides. So for this kind of statement, let's make this purple. U needs to fall within these two ranges. One side, u is greater than 7, and if it's on this side, u is less than negative 7. And if we flip this sign, then we change all of that. Let's change this sign to less than or equal to 7, and now the range will fall here. So now let's solve. Based on what we know, all of this just goes back down to this. Let's make this back to white. x plus 3. Oh, I need to also change this back to the original problem where we are greater or equal to 7. So x plus 3 is either greater or equal to 7, or x plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 7. So let's solve for each of those. This top one is going to be x is greater or equal to 4, or x is less than or equal to negative 10. Okay? And we can check that. Remember to check your answers if you're not sure. And if you are very confident, definitely check your answer. So, let's try. We'll try 4 and 5 to check this one. And we'll try negative 10 and negative 11 to check for this one. So, 4, absolute value of 7, greater or equal to 7, so that's good. 5, absolute value of 8, greater or equal to 7, good. Now let's try the smaller side. Absolute value of negative 7, greater or equal to 7. And absolute value of negative 8 is greater or equal to 7. So these are all good. All I did here was just plug in the value, just do the mental math, and check for each answer. Okay. So, I hope you understood how to do absolute values. If you need help with this, please send it. If you know someone who needs help with this, please send it to them. You can always rewatch the video to try to understand more. And I'll see you soon.